Hi, question for you. What's the first thing we learn about Jesus in the New Testament? Seems like an odd question, but it's an interesting question. If I was to ask the average Christian, perhaps even non-Christian, what's the first verse of the Bible? Most people would have no difficulty. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. But if I was to ask the average Christian what's the first verse of the New Testament, they actually may have a little bit of difficulty with that. You know, the Encyclopedia of Philosophy and Religion, in its biographical section on Jesus, says the opening sentence is Jesus Christ, the founder of Christianity. But is that really true? Is that really the way the Gospels introduces Jesus? Well, the very first book of the Bible is the book of the genealogy of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. So it's using a little bit of poetic license there. We know that that King David was not Jesus's father. But what's the significance of articulating it in that way? Well, David was of the tribe of Judah. He was the sovereign of Israel. And God made a promise to David. He said, I'm going to establish your throne, and your descendants will reign upon that throne. In particular, one descendant will reign on that throne forever. And we know also that David's father, of course, was not Abraham. So again, poetic license being used there. That God entered into a covenant relationship. When you read the opening chapters of Genesis, we basically almost see one disaster after another. But God is changing the course of human history by singling out one man, Abraham, and one family, his descendants, through Isaac and through Jacob. So the very first thing that we're learning about Jesus is that, well, he's pretty Jewish. Do you know that Jesus was actually not a Christian? He lived and he died as a Jew. He never had a Christmas tree growing up. He never went to church on Sunday. He didn't consume any Easter eggs. A few years ago, my wife, Rosalind, and I were speaking in a Presbyterian church. And after the service, a youth leader of the church came to us and said, so that's why it said, King of the Jews. And I just kind of looked at her and I'm thinking, I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, that's what they had on the cross, King of the Jews. And I said, well, he was Jewish. Oh, man. So this was a revelation to this youth leader that Jesus, her Savior, was actually Jewish. And whatever stereotypical conception she had of Jews, perhaps. So very early in Christian history, Jesus was stripped of his Jewish heritage. But Jesus lived as a Jew. He maintained his Jewishness virtually right from birth. He had a Brit Milah as an infant. He did the ceremony in the temple of the Pidyon Haben. He wore tzitzit his entire life. But we as Christians, so often we really don't even know what that means. But he attended the shul, the synagogue, during Shabbat, and it was his custom, even as a child, we know, to be in the temple during the Chagim, during the pilgrim festivals. The Gospels clearly portray him as a Torah-observant Jew. Often with the Pharisees and with the religious leaders, he debated exactly how one was to observe the Shabbat, the one commandment that the Torah teaches Israel that they are to remember. But he said, I have not come to abolish the law and the prophets. He said, not even one yud, one jot or tittle, the smallest portion of the Torah will pass away. That's why when he was crucified, he was even called a Jew on the cross, as he was crucified by the Romans. While we as Christians must certainly rejoice that Jesus came and he died for all of us, Jesus himself affirmed his connection to his people, and he lived by halakha. He walked according to the Torah throughout his life. Why do we as Christians need to stand with and support Israel and the Jewish people? Because Israel's Messiah, Jewish. Our Savior, Jewish. The scriptures delivered to all of mankind through the Jewish people. Paul tells us to them God has entrusted his oracles, the New Testament written by Jews. Even Luke, show me where it says that he's a Gentile. The Jewish people have been a blessing to us, and we'll talk a little bit about that in our next video. God bless.